So I want to get back to this Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who the Democrats can't stop fawning all over. And we keep getting more bits and pieces of who this man really is that's sort of trickling out in what I mean, I will say, full disclosure, I don't know the privacy policy for like DHS but I would assume that everything is, I mean, you can FOIA whatever you want. You can, down to local law enforcement, up to federal agencies. So I don't know why this wouldn't have been able to be made public. I just love it either way, to be honest with you, because the left is just crying all about this guy who, again, a thank you would be nice for sending you back to your home. A thank you would, I mean, I know you're like locked up in prison, but maybe that was a result of your own choices. And so you have this man who we now know was stopped by Tennessee Highway Patrol in December of 2022. He was transporting 7 passengers from Texas to Maryland. I'm sure because he was a Maryland father. And the officer who pulled him over suspected human trafficking and called the FBI. Now, the Tennessee Star's sources also say that Garcia or one of the passengers may have been on a terror watch list. And the FBI reportedly told troopers to photograph the group and then release them. So he was, of course, here illegally. So he didn't have documentation. He didn't have a driver's license. And he was still released after that encounter anyway. Add that to the court records from the domestic violence protective order back in 2021 that his poor crying wife filed. Find that interesting. I wouldn't be crying about a man who had abused me because she said either she's lying then or she's lying now, because she said back then he was hitting her, he was scratching her, he was detaining her. There was another police report that he ripped her shirt, he left bruising, very serious stuff. And now she's publicly supporting him and raking in the Give, Send, Go funds for her family. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw, I have not fact-checked this, but I did see something that said that she has 3 children she's touting as like, these are our children, and only one of those children is actually his. The other 2 were from other relationship or relationships. So I would say maybe an important distinction when you're trying to say, this is just a Maryland father. He has 3 kids that he just was trying to take care of. Maybe by going out on the streets and doing gangbanging, but he was still trying to take care of his kids. And so you've got the fact that judges previously ruled that he was likely linked to MS-13. He was denied bond for posing a potential danger to the public. And despite that, he was allowed to remain in this country until Trump's 2025 deportation. And, I understand that the Democrats are like, but what about due process? I don't want to give it to him. I don't. I think if you're here illegally, you don't get due process. I think that's only for American citizens. Is that wrong? Is that hateful?
I mean, I could argue whether it's hateful or wrong. I don't think you're hateful or wrong. But I like, there is a limit to the amount of rights that you get when you're an illegal immigrant. There's some constitutional rights apply to you still, but there's
sure.
We don't have the same standards, right, of proof. We can, we don't need to have the beyond a reasonable doubt standard to deport you.
Right.
In fact, we can do it pretty easily, really based on a lot of suspicions. And that's kind of it, right? Yeah. I mean, this particular case is weird, right? Like, there is some doubt as to how much of the stuff he was doing. He was arrested with an MS-13 member. Now, I don't know how many times it's happened to you guys. Probably a lot. Does it happen often?
All the time.
Yeah. See, that happens to all of us.
And I never knew that they were MS-13.
Yeah. I mean,
the facial tattoos didn't give it away.
Exactly. I just hang out with a lot of people with facial tattoos. That's just my thing. So, it's it could happen, right? Could. It could happen. It could happen that a source goes to the government and falsely names you as an MS-13 member. It's possible that could happen. That being said, though, what we do know, because he's admitted it, is that he was here illegally, and he was here for a very long time illegally. He didn't try to get asylum for many, many years, eventually got caught, and then claimed his mother's pupusa stand back in El Salvador was being terrorized, and he couldn't go back there because he might get tortured, despite the fact that the pupusa stand, which, by the way, pupusas are freaking delicious. I had one for my first time today because I was talking about it. They're so freaking good. I want to go to his mother's pupusa stand. But it doesn't exist because it closed many years ago. And so the idea that he was going to go back to El Salvador and get tortured for his mother's pupusa stand that was not open is it's a hell of a stretch to get him to stay in the country. Of course, we allowed it anyway. Of course, we didn't kick him out multiple times when he was caught. He should have been out a long time ago. And look, it was back during still the Trump administration when he went to court and they said he should not be deported to El Salvador. I think we should have stuck by that. I will also say the Trump administration says that as well. They said that they made a mistake by sending him there. They should have not kept him here, but deported him to another country. Fine. If he ever shows up on our borders, we'll make sure to kick him out to somewhere else next time. That being said, this is we did a show on Stu Does America tonight on Chris Van Hollen, who is the senator from Maryland who went down there. And I can hear all the blank stares from the audience because they have no idea who Chris Van Hollen is.
what's his face? That's
right, that guy. Yeah. But, the left has turned this into this sort of cause celeb where they're going to go around, they're going to make this into their thing. He made 100 different social media videos to promote that he was going to El Salvador just to be told no over and over again. No.
Which he knew that that was going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. If anyone's going to get him back here, it would be Trump, who could probably pressure Bukele into doing it if he wanted to, but quite clearly he doesn't, and I don't want him back here either.
Right.
So it's just it's a little more complicated, I feel like, than the left certainly is making it out to be. It is not some Maryland father story where we're just trying to get him back with his loved ones. That's not the story. There's a lot more to it. Of course, the media's just ignoring it.
Yeah, but I want to know why his mother's pupusa stand was being terrorized by gangs.
It's a good question.
Because usually,
maybe because their pupusas were just awesome.
They just wanted free pupusas,
right.
maybe.
Or after today's lunch, I can believe it. I gotta say, I would have been.
It's like I'm on the side of the opposing gang.
Yeah,
I gotta
say. Can we import her to make pupusas, and if she makes enough pupusas, we'll bring the kid back. How about that? Honestly, they're so good. I'm opening up to that proposal.
I just wonder because I hear that and I'm like, well, if you're linked to like some opposing gang of theirs, that would be a reason for them to terrorize your mom's pupusa stand.
Exactly. Very possible. I mean, it could, again, my knowledge of how the inner workings of the community of gangs in El Salvador work is limited.
Yeah.
But I will say, first of all, since Bukele's in there, none of the gangs are there anymore.
Right.
They've all been arrested and thrown into the same prison he's now in. So it was unlikely he would be terrorized. I'd say it could be like a protection thing. You must pay. Who knows what it was? It could have been something. My guess is, though, when you read just from the fact that he got here in 2014 and didn't ask for asylum for 5 years, right? The amount of lying that went into the ruling that he was not allowed to go back to El Salvador, I think, was extreme. I don't believe his story. I don't believe the pupusas were the actual cause of all of this. How could they be the cause of anything bad? They're fantastic. So I don't believe it at all. I think it was a lie from the beginning. That being said, you still want to make sure your rule. We are a country that holds up the rule of law. If we made a mistake, it would be great to rectify it. That being said, I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. There's a lot of things. I watched a woman explain how her daughter was raped and murdered by these gangs. That's the thing that makes me much more passionate than this gang member maybe not being in the place he'd like to be.
And that's where I'm at. Matt, I'll let you weigh in. That's where I'm at because I'm like, I don't even know that why should an American judge dictate where this guy goes? All you should be worried about is making sure he's not in our country. I don't know that we have a responsibility, a moral responsibility not to send him back to the country from which he came when he clearly didn't feel like he had a moral responsibility to come here the right way. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, you know what? I don't really care. I don't care. I say this all the time, Stu. You're probably going to be horrified because you're a better person than me. But I'm like, just catapult them across the border. I don't care where they land. I don't care if they land in the Rio Grande. I don't care if they land in Mexico. I don't care if I don't know how far this catapult can go, but maybe it can go farther than Mexico. I don't really care where they land. I just want them the hell out of my country. And so, and by the way, if anyone thinks that that's a callous way of seeing things, you can blame all of the illegals who took advantage of our system and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, not me. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.